This class is a little different than some of the other ones we did this week. There's no instance field, and there's no constructor. These are all static variables, static methods, sorry. So you could call these anytime that you had a string array to pass to them, and then they have various return types like Boolean, string, void. So the first one doesn't even need a loop because we know that we're talking about the first word and the last word within the array. So the first word, in any array is always going to be the one found at index 0. Okay. And we need to go one step further. We need to get the first letter of that first word. And so the first letter of any word is always going to be a substring on 0, 1. So that should now contain the first letter of the first word. I have another string that I'm going to call last word. And last word is a little different. I don't really know how many words are in the array. So I'm going to have to go to the length of the array, take away 1, and now I've got the last word found in this string array. And if I wanted the last letter of that particular word, and what I would do is, again, I'm going to do a substring of this, okay? This time it's not as easy as just saying 0, 1. This time I have to actually go back to the word, take its length, and take away 1. We got to be a little careful here. We got string length, we have array length. If I had these two strings set up, I could just return if first letter equals last letter. And that's really all that matters is my true or false can come straight from there. And if you look down at the main method, you'll see some descriptions as to like what the returns should be, but they're also like I'm supposed to get true, false, false, and you'll notice that I got true, false, false. Okay, so it looks perfect. All right, so let's take a look at the next one here, string longest word. All right, well, we've been practicing this a lot. We could track this string by index. We could track it by length. We could track it by string. So it's a little tricky. If you track the length, you'll have to be able to convert that to a string to make your return. Because look at the return type, it says string. So you may end up like looping through a second time trying to match the length back up to the string. So I don't know that I really recommend tracking length, but at the same time, we do need to keep track of the length of the string. So I could see a couple ways to do it. Maybe you made two variables, like one to hold the string, one to hold the length. And when you found a longer one, you update both of those variables. But again, this is actually another great chance for us to use our index tracker. So if we can just find where the longest string is, then when we're ready to return it, we could just simply access it from the array. So what that would look like is when I get to my last line of code here, I'll say words index, and that will retrieve the string that I want. I need to be able to find the index where the longest string is. So to me, this might be the easiest approach, although I don't know. I mean, if you like doing it a different way, that's fine. I encourage you to try it, solving ways. Okay, so let's see what happens. We're just going to ask a question, right? We're going to go into the words array. We're going to go to I. Anything that comes out of this, it's not a book, it's not a rectangle, it's not a triangle. This is a string. So we're back to our string methods that we've learned about previously. If this string has a greater length, then I'm going to go back to the words array. I'm going to go to the index that I'm tracking. If the length of that string, right, if the first one has a longer length than the second one, then, well, we had the wrong index. So update our index. At the end, we look at the index of the longest string, and we're going to return it again as a string. So we always want to match that return type to our return. Anything that comes out of this array is a string. So you can see here we found computer, communication, elephants. You can look below in the main method if you want to see like what the strings in there are. But yeah, we can see that this is doing what it's supposed to. All right, replace dog with cat. And you'll notice this is at the bottom of the tester. I did that so that it wouldn't mess up the other returns, okay? So replace dog with cat. This is a void method. We're not going to return anything. We're going to go to every string. Now, we did a modifying method on our rectangles where we swapped widths and lengths, and I used an enhanced loop. This is a case where we actually can't use an enhanced loop easily. Strings are immutable, so the string would not change through an enhanced loop local reference. I'm gonna switch back to an index loop for this one. And I'm gonna go to every index that belongs to the stuff array. And I need to actually grab the string. Now, let's say I did this. Let's say I made a string up and I called it S. I got to be a little bit careful if I do this, and I'll show you why in just a second. And it has to do with exactly why we're not going to use an enhanced loop here. If I take S and I get dog, okay, so if S dot equals dog, what I can't do is I can't say S equals cat. That might look like I'm doing it right, like I found dog and I put cat in there, but this is exactly why we don't want to use an enhanced loop. If we do this, we're only changing the local value of S. And so if you look at my arrays down here, you'll notice that like the word dog still appears in the array. Remember, dog was supposed to be replaced by the word cat, and it didn't happen. And again, the reason is I was just changing the local value S. I wasn't actually changing the array value. What I should have done is I should have gone back to the stuff array at index I. And again, this is exactly why I don't want to use an enhanced loop in this situation. The same exact thing would have happened. So I need to go back to the array, reference it through I, and now you'll see. Remember, you can see where I had highlighted earlier. It said dog, dog. Now it says cat, cat. The word dogs remained in the array, but that's because of the plural, so it didn't match the singular word dog here. But I did remove the dog string and replace it with cat. Okay. All right, count X words. Okay, so basic counter. In fact, I think some students had a question like this on their final. And so the trick here is to use index of to your advantage. So this time I will use an enhanced loop because I just want to quickly go across. Oh, I guess I can't use S though. I just want to quickly go across the array and just simply ask a question. If the string index of the letter X, lowercase, is not -1, right? If it's -1, then there's no X in there. As long as we don't get -1, we'll go ahead and increment our counter. And this should identify every string in the array that had a letter X in it. So let's see, yeah, 401. See, those were, if you look in the parentheses there, that's what we should have gotten. And now it says return a string array that only contains the words in the array that have a letter X. The length of the returned array must exactly equal how many strings contain a letter X. Oh, this is tricky. Now, I have to actually make a brand new array here. We did one just like this just a few minutes ago. I made a video for you with the rectangles where we took out the small rectangles. In that one, we had to count how many rectangles we wanted first in a loop, make the array, and then write another loop. We can actually skip that first step here if we correctly use our method call that we just made. Let me show you. So I could make an integer out of that method that I just wrote. If you give that method an array of strings, it will tell you how many of them have an X. Perfect. All right. Because if I knew that count, then I could make a new array, okay, just to my specifications based on whatever that method call came back as. And so now I've got the perfectly linked array that I want. Okay. Now, if you remember how we did the rectangles, actually, we made an index. In this case, I'll call it 0. What I could do now is I could basically kind of borrow how I was doing this just a minute ago. I'm going to loop through again. The difference is, right, just like we saw, with the rectangles, instead of counting we're going to take the ones that have an X, and I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah, we're keeping X words. Okay. I'm double checking. I didn't know if we were getting rid of them or keeping them. We're keeping them. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep it by putting it into the array that I'm building here. And then I'll bump the index over. Now, a little bit different than the rectangle array we were doing. This time I didn't void the return method. I said, go ahead and return this array that you're building. So a little bit different. We didn't have any instance fields here to hand off this memory address to. So I just said, go ahead and return it. And we would actually still have two arrays. We'd have the original array, and now we're going to have this new array called only words with X. And let's see what comes through for me or not. Oh, no. Oh, I forgot. We changed the name of the array here. Let's try it again. Yeah, see, if you look at those new arrays, we kept words that had X, expert, Xanadu, XXX, X, Xeris, okay? In fact, the middle array didn't have any X words, cat, alphabet, so on. And so it actually returned like a length 0 array, and that's perfect, okay? So there you go. All right, that's a pretty tough one. But again, let me know if you have any questions on anything.